Dirt Trax is sponsored by Can-Am. The ride says it all. Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. And by Yamaha Motor Canada. What kind of Yamaha are you?
Earlier in the season, we did a story in Dirt Trax magazine where we compared Polaris's Sportsman XP850 to Can-Am's Outlander 1000 XT. At the end of that story, Mark clearly stated that the reason that story was a comparison and not a shootout was because these two ATVs are so evenly matched, picking a winner would be nearly impossible. Since then, we've had a lot more time to ride these ATVs ourselves, let our long list of test riders put miles on them, and gather more impressions and opinions of each. So, we thought we would revisit Mark's original comparison story, but this time do a real, honest-to-goodness, no-bull shootout on two ATVs that at first glance almost seem incomparable due to a fairly drastic difference in both engine displacement and horsepower. Categories for comparison between these two ATVs will be no different than any other shootout-style story. We're looking at ride and handling, power and drivability, comfort and amenities, and finally, overall rider satisfaction. Value, or more specifically price, isn't going to play a role in this story since we picked these two vehicles because they're top of the line, best of the best. If you're buying in this category, you're probably not likely to nitpick over a few hundred dinero anyway. Our Polaris test bike is a Sportsman 850 HO with EPS. As far as Polaris goes, this is the cream of the crop. Our impressions of this bike go well beyond positive, and it is a favorite of many a staffer here at Dirt Trax. Under its hood lays an 850cc single overhead cam twin-cylinder mill that puts out an impressive 77 horses. This motor is an ATV-only unit that has become Polaris's staple big bore power plant. What do we like about this motor? Well, for starters, everyone who rides it raves about how smooth its power delivery is, but also how much power there seems to be on tap when you really need it. Essentially, everyone loves how refined and usable its 77 horsepower actually is. The exhaust note from the Sportsman was, when it was first released, a bit strange. The parallel layout of the cylinders makes for a very different cadence than what we were used to hearing from a big bore twin. But over time, this sound has grown on us, and Polaris has continued to tweak and evolve the exhaust systems on their 850s. Now, this is one of our favorite sounding big bores. Power delivery from this engine is again buttery smooth. On initial squeeze, you might even say it's soft, not aggressive or even impressive. But this mild-mannered power band is what makes this ATV so easy to ride, no matter where you're riding. Speaking of riding, Polaris gets big kudos for the ride quality of its 850 HO. The shocks may not be super fancy, wildly adjustable piggyback units, but the factory shock valving and spring rates are nearly perfect. From super rough, choppy or gnarly terrain to flat fire road blasting, the Sportsman is as smooth and composed as any ATV we've ever ridden. Sway bars help keep the chassis flat in the corners, and single-mode speed-sensitive EPS makes steering effortless and filters out unwanted negative inputs from the ground through the handlebars. For a single-mode power steering setup, this one works excellent. 90% of the time, it's perfect and needs no adjustment. But the truth is, there are those few occasions where maybe a higher or lower option would be nice. In the comfort and amenities department, the 850 HO fares well, but does lose some ground to the very well-appointed Can-Am. Excellent rack functionality and capacities with front under-rack storage on the LE model, nice painted plastics, sweet gauge and high-end 14-inch aluminum wheels wrapped in meaty Maxxis tires are enough to leave a buyer feeling like they got what they paid for. The narrow seat and footwell area that are thanks to a longitudinally mounted motor and transmission score big marks for comfort, and along with nearly perfect rider ergonomics, combine to give the 850 Sportsman super high marks in the comfort and amenities department. Can-Am's Outlander 1000 XT is by far the most over-the-top 4x4 sport utility ATV to ever spin its tires. Its G2 chassis impressed us with a long list of refinements, and its 1000cc motor made us giggle and get all emotional. Under its hood is a 976cc single overhead cam V-twin that puts out astonishing horsepower in the mid to high 80s. Just if you're wondering, yes, that's the most horsepower ever produced by any stock ATV in history. With this much power on tap, we wouldn't blame you if you just assumed this thing was a beast to ride. The snarl of its exhaust doesn't do anything to dispel that rumor either. But the truth is, Can-Am has tuned and clutched this beast of a motor to be very realistic and livable on the trail. Is it fast? Yeah. Can it be a handful to ride? You bet, especially if you have a self-control issue with your right thumb. But when ridden the way a responsible adult should ride, the Outlander 1000's 80+ horsepower are delivered with a smooth composure that make this ATV very easy to handle. Thanks to its all-new G2 chassis, the 2012 Outlander is also a pleasure to ride. We had a lot of gripes with the older Outlander chassis and didn't feel that it gave Polaris's stellar Sportsman XP platform any real competition when it came to ride and handling. But the G2 is a completely different setup that shares almost nothing in common with its predecessor. Its sway bars and suspension mounting points have been tweaked and altered to improve squat, dive, and directional stability in nearly every condition. What you're left with is an ATV that rides and handles like we had always expected an Outlander to ride and handle. It's stable, composed, and smooth. Tri-mode DPS helps filter out any unwanted feedback from the trail through the handlebars, and its 3 modes allow you to tune the level of assistance to your current riding conditions. In terms of comfort and amenities, the 1000 XT certainly has a few. Its racks are nice looking and very functional, and the XT package comes right from the factory with front and rear brush guards and a winch. Furthermore, its excellent gauge cluster, totally trick-looking hubless aluminum wheels wrapped in 26-inch Carlisle tires, huge rear under-rack storage area, and factory-installed handguards take the Outlander 1000 XT to a whole nother level of trick. Do these extras actually add up to more riding comfort? Yes, they do. But if you're going to compare apples to apples, no amount of bolt-on upgrades can narrow the space between your feet. And the truth is, when compared to the Sportsman, the extra space between the floorboards on this vehicle is not as comfortable. Now that we're done with the overview of these two beasts, we need to talk about actual rider satisfaction. At the end of the day, which one is more pleasing to ride, all things considered. And as with any shootout we do here on dirt tracks, this is where things start to get difficult. Are both of these ATVs amazing rides? Heck yeah, they are. Either one is great for blasting down fire roads or tight trails, and both of them are fully capable at running through rocks and gnarly terrain or anything else you can throw at them without flinching. So we have to go back to what our test riders say after a day on the trail about which one they liked best. In terms of power, the Outlander certainly has more than the Sportsman. It's not only got about 10 more horsepower, but its bigger displacement gives it a noticeable increase in bottom end. The softer clutching of the Sportsman XP plays a role in this feeling as well. Surprisingly, most people pick the Sportsman's 850cc power plant as their favorite, citing its ultra-smooth power delivery and excellent throttle control as being more desirable than the Outlander's extra powerful 1000cc mill. When asked about ride and handling, responses were less polarized to one vehicle versus the other. Riders really liked the way the Outlander handles and commented on how little body roll you feel under hard cornering. And also a big hit was tri-mode power steering that allowed for less assist at higher speeds or more assist in tight situations. However, the Sportsman XP's softer suspension was again the preferred setup for longer days on the trail. And even though it only has single-mode power steering, most riders felt it was an adequate compromise that worked excellent in nearly every condition. The comfort and amenities category was the one that got the most mixed reviews. Most riders prefer the extras included with the Outlander, in particular the winch and handguards, and felt the Sportsman could use a few more extras to compete. When it came to comfort, nearly every rider preferred the ergonomics of the Polaris, giving rave reviews to its narrow seat and foot positioning. So after all things were considered, this category was kind of a wash. Still, the final result is not hard to calculate, but did come as a surprise to pretty much everyone around the office. We all figured the extra power and amenities found on the Outlander would make it a shoo-in to win. But the Sportsman 850 XP simply provided a smoother, more comfortable, and overall more controllable riding experience for the vast majority of riders, making it this shootout's clear winner. After our initial comparison story in Trax magazine, are we surprised by this result? Yes. Do we disagree with it? Absolutely not. Just because every pure sport ATV has chopped off fenders and a solid rear axle doesn't mean every ATV with chopped off fenders and a solid rear axle is meant to slay sweet corners on a motocross track or jump 120-foot doubles. That's because not every ATV with a solid axle and tiny fenders is a pure sport ATV. There's a small subcategory of sport-style ATVs that are targeted far more towards trail riding than racing. Often they're older designs, less aggressive and less technical, but durable to a fault with decent enough performance to please even the most aggressive trail rider. One of the best examples of this type of ATV is absolutely Honda's TRX 400X, one of the industry's longest standing sport ATVs and still the go-to bike for countless trail and dune riders worldwide. The 400X started its life as the 400EX. In its day, the 400EX was the highest performance four-stroke sport ATV you could buy. There was, and still is, endless aftermarket support for this vehicle that can transform a stock 400 into just about anything you can imagine. The secret to this ATV's illustrious lifespan can be summed up in a single word: simplicity. There's nothing overly fancy about this bike, technically speaking, yet it delivers on all the key aspects discerning trail riders value most. For starters, the 400X's counterbalanced 397cc air-cooled single-cylinder mill may not win any horsepower competitions, but its simple, no-frills design provides decent performance, easy maintenance, and nearly bulletproof reliability. The most exciting aspect of this motor is what Honda has termed the RFVC, or Radical 4-Valve Combustion Head Design. This is basically just a fancy way of saying it has 4 valves. But using the word radical makes it sound a lot more exciting, doesn't it? The 400X's chassis is equally as simple and durable as its motor. It features a cast aluminum swing arm out back mated to a fully adjustable Showa piggyback shock that provides a more than adequate 9.1 inches of travel. Up front, a basic dual A-arm design is damped by a set of preload adjustable aluminum body gas shocks and yields 8.2 inches of travel. Braking duties are handled by a set of dual hydraulic discs up front and a single hydraulic disc in the rear. In terms of its transmission, the 400X maintains its race-inspired heritage with a manual 5-speed transmission and heavy-duty ATV-specific clutch. On the other hand, electric start and reverse are both standard and lend themselves more towards the modern trail riding crowd. So just what does all of this add up to for you, the rider who will actually be putting miles on this thing? Simplicity, reliability, and performance always add up to endless fun. The only real complaints I have with the 400X come from my long history of riding sports-style ATVs on the trail. The thin seat foam can get pretty uncomfortable on a long ride. There's no storage on this ATV at all, not even a small waterproof compartment for your paperwork. And finally, no instrumentation means that this ATV cannot be ridden on public roads. In many places, ATVs are legal. Are these major issues? Not really. In all reality, they're pretty minor and can be resolved easily for minimal cost. Decent skid plates and tires, grippy foot pegs, and overall nice working switchgear round out a no-frills, business in the front, party in the back ATV. While it's true that this ATV has a very specific buyer, and while it's also true that there are better choices for just trail riding or just dune riding, Honda's TRX 400X brings its own mix of simple, reliable performance and versatility that make it truly one of a kind.
In an earlier episode this season, we showed you a sneak preview of the newest Polaris Ranger in the lineup. But today we're here in beautiful Montana to show you what else is new in the 2013 Polaris Rangers and The all-new Ranger XP 900 is reminiscent of the Ranger 800 XP in looks, but truly different in every other way. Featuring a detuned 60 horsepower ProStar 900 mil taken from the Razor XP and XP4, the utility-focused Ranger knows no bounds and now truly plays as hard as it works. With an upgraded drivetrain to handle all that added power and a 5-inch longer wheelbase, the new Ranger sets the standards for utility, which in my opinion was already held by the Polaris with the untouchable Ranger XP 800. But as usual, Polaris never seems content and charges forwards with a focused determination at all times. In the utility side-by-side category, accessories play a huge role. And the truth is, most manufacturers' vehicles leave the dealer showroom floor with more than one accessory installed by the dealer themselves. So if you can get into your dealership, have an accessory installed quickly, you're more likely to take it home that day. Lock and Ride has been a huge feather in Polaris's cap and makes the showroom a virtual demo center for potential buyers, able to switch and swap parts and accessories with ease. But the most impressive Lock and Ride system yet is the all-new ProFit cab that literally can be installed in minutes, from the roof to windshield, rear window and doors, and also allows the consumer to buy the cab in pieces and only use what they need, with each piece integrating and installing with the simplicity Lock and Ride has become known for. With cab systems being the biggest selling accessory for side-by-sides, it's no wonder Polaris has such a slick system, available for the new Ranger XP 900. As if the XP 900 wasn't enough for the utility lineup, the Polaris engineers thought that they'd pull one more rabbit out of their hat and create what I believe will be an incredibly fun and hugely popular side-by-side. The midsize Ranger chassis that comes in 3 motor categories of electric, 29 horsepower 400 EFI, and 32 horsepower 500 EFI, and if you can believe it, can now be purchased with, wait for it, the 800cc twin-cylinder 50 horsepower EFI power plant, the same motor found in the original 800 Sportsman to this day. Now if you're not as beside yourself as I am, think about the already potent 500 EFI midsize Ranger and add over 50% more power. If you're still not getting it, take a Corvette motor and shoehorn it into a Chevy Colorado. Yahoo! It's no surprise the smaller midsize Ranger is popular around the Dirt Trax headquarters. It's small enough to fit in the box of a pickup truck, yet as hardworking as they come, and now ready to play with the best of them. Words just don't do this Ranger justice. Nonetheless, I'll try to relay my experience. The ride quality and essentials are the same as the current model year vehicles, but the power is just plain ridiculous. And while we did hear of a Skunks Work type project where an 800 was put in this chassis, we never thought it would see production, ever. Wheel spin is constant, power slides continuous, throttling through corners imminent, and increased speeds on the trails inevitable. While Big Brother Ranger XP 900 is the baddest full-size workhorse, I'd say this Ranger is the snotty-nosed punk little brother who talks smack yet has the kahunas to back it up, and will beat your honor student like a red-headed stepchild. I can't wait to do a full test ride next season. While the side-by-side category has received huge updates for 2013, the other equally big news comes by way of a one-up sport ATV that all of us at Dirt Trax have been speculating about and anticipating for years, and it has a name that's synonymous with four-wheel drive performance. Say hello to the all-new 2013 Polaris Scrambler XP 850HO. A derivative of the Sportsman XP, the Scrambler shares both the chassis and driveline of the sport utility, but from there, it's totally different, focusing on sport performance with four-wheel drive capabilities. The setup on this beast is ready to slay any trail you put it on, and looks incredible. It's amazing how different a vehicle can look with new bodywork. The minimalist design is aggressive, yet stylish, while still allowing for a front carrying capacity of 25 pounds and a rack out back that'll take 50. While it seems small, this isn't a Sportsman, it's a Scrambler, and having any carrying capacity is a huge bonus, allowing you to bring a little gear along with you. Available in a base and limited edition, both Scramblers feature the 850 high-output 77 horsepower motor that hammers the power to the ground, and thanks to the minimal bodywork, gives you a clear view of the trail ahead. The $2,500 limited edition upgrade is a whole lot more than cool new graphics and black plastic, and features a tangible list of benefits that will truly set you apart. Fox Podium X piggyback shocks with compression adjustability, EPS power steering, a digital gauge package, LED headlights, matte black cast aluminum wheels, matching handguards, and a trick black and red color scheme complete the package. While the stock Scrambler performs like a dream on most any trail, the upgrades of the LE are a welcome benefit to the ultra-aggressive trail rider seeking the ultimate sport four-wheel drive ATV. The Scrambler is back in a big way. Look for a full test ride next season on dirt tracks, where we'll put the Scrambler to the test. The truth is, I'm continually impressed by Polaris. This company doesn't stand still, not even for a minute. They continue to press the bounds and push the limits of every category in this industry, delivering exactly what buyers are asking for, year after hard-working year.